As we continue to the second part of the third lecture of general psychology for MLS. So, as I was saying here, the immune system and how it becomes weaker because of the cortisone that is excreted into the vascular system. So, let's look at the cardiovascular health and its relationship to the stress. We know with all these hormones that we will have constant high blood pressure. So the stress will cause constant high blood pressure. With other lifestyles, on its own, that is a minor problem. But the problem is that the stress also causes other lifestyle changes. For example, smoking. People who are stressed frequently smoke, or drink alcohol, or take drugs, or have an unhealthy diet. All that together with a high blood pressure will cause harm to the body. So it's a multifactorial effect. It isn't just stress to a problem, but stress has other issues. So if you have a bit of high blood pressure and you have it under control and you do not smoke, drink alcohol, or have a healthy diet and don't take drugs, there will be probably no effect or very minor effects on your health. And so we see that different people's response to stress is different. Some people get stomach ulcers, some people die or commit suicide, as we have noticed lately, and some people just get on with life. And it's their attitude of how they look at stress. PTSD. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, which means that someone, a person, an individual, gets exposed to stress, a high amount of stress. Stress can be anything. Now, we do see that a lot after conflicts, armed conflicts, wars, and things like that. Now, a lot of the American soldiers had PTSD when they went back to the US after the 2 wars they fought here in Iraq. So it could be caused by trauma, could be caused by war, major events. I do think that a lot of people in Iraq have PTSD, and that is through the multiple conflicts we've had, from Iran-Iraq war to first, second Gulf War, Daesh and ISIS and all that stuff, and all our civil war in Kurdistan. So there's a lot of reasons for that. What they get, these people, sometimes is flashbacks. So you have an event that is major, you see someone killed or someone injured, and it flashes back, and you get that flashback, and that influences your mental state. Also, they are frequently anxious. There's a lot of anxiety in these people with PTSD, so you can see them. They have a special behavior. You can see that behavior actually if you're experienced. But we're not here into going into details into that. But this is one of the things that can is part of the stress, let's say, collection, where stress here causes a significant indentation into the lifestyle of a person here. Then we have the burnout effect or burnout state. And this is physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. You have all that stress and it's accumulating and accumulating, and you don't have any release of that. And then you have the burnout. So you just don't care anymore. You have low performance. You're not motivated anymore, whether as a student or as a lecturer. Now, as a student, I see that frequently. How do I see that? Now, some of you probably were good, excellent students. So what you do is between the year 11 and 12, you go and get a lecturer, a teacher, to prepare you for the 12th class. So you spend the whole summer studying. And then the year starts, the academic year, and then you start to study. And you don't have any breaks, and you don't have any Fridays, and you want to get 99.9, or if possible, even 100%. So you're studying, and you come to around April, where you have been nonstop from year 11. So from September, 1.5 years earlier, you've been ongoing, or actually 2 years. So from September year 11 to September year 12, that's non-stop. And then you continue for another few months. So it's more than 1.5 years, almost 2 years, where you're ongoing and continuously learning and studying. But you come to the burnout phase. And the burnout is around April, May, where you come to I don't care state. I don't care means that you just want to have it behind you and get rid of it. You do not have the motivation anymore here, motivation to perform. You go to the exams, you do not have the performance, the motivation, and you have low performance. You used to get 90-something% and suddenly you get 78-something or 80-something. I've seen that a lot. And that is the burnout caused by stress. So now come to the section where we need to understand how to cope with stress. One of the ways is repressive coping. You just avoid it. You just forget about it. You don't think about it and you ignore it. The other one is rational coping. So you've got repressive coping and then you've got the rational coping. Rational coping is that you understand there is stress, you're exposed to it, you start to understand how to deal with it, and then you work with it. Another one, how to cope with stress, is reframing it. So you write about it, you talk about it. The fact that you talk about it to a friend or someone close to you or even a psychotherapist is sometimes useful. Psychotherapist, if it's very severe, of course. The fact that you just talk about it, or some people just write about it. And we've got a lot of people who've written about their experiences within war or any other events, and that relieves the pressure. So it's not like a pressure cooking device. You do not want to have all that pressure inside. Just relieve a little bit, relieve it. And you could also think positively about the stress. So something like that, khayrit habit, all that stuff that we convince ourselves when there is something that isn't working well, that we reframe it and we say, maybe there is something good in it. Khayrit habit. Yes? So repressive, rational, reframing. You change it. You say, you convince yourself of something else. Rational, you just accept it and understand it. Another thing is the relaxation therapy. Now, we know that meditation has a significant effect on stress. Now, in most religions, there is also praying. Yoga is within the Hinduism religion. So we have multiple methods, Europeans and Southeast Asia's meditation, praying, if you are a believer of any of the religions, and yoga is another. So we have these methods to calm and relax the mind. There is actually a massive business of meditation with an app making millions to help stressed people meditate, because it's very commonplace everywhere. A lot of people have stress, especially with work, and this helps them. I do think this year with the COVID-19, this stress business is going to be massive. A lot of people are under stress because of they are either losing their jobs or getting their salaries reduced. So that is from a financial point of view. In addition to staying too long home with your relatives, with your partners, with your family. People are not used to stay 24/7 at home, and that causes conflicts. And I do expect that after the COVID, the divorce rate is going to increase worldwide. Right. One thing else is biofeedback. Biofeedback is when you have a device that monitors your blood pressure, pulse, heart rate, skin temperature, and it gives you a feedback of your stress levels. So what you do is you try and relax at the same time, you have a feedback. You have a monitor that is telling you where you are. So you can use a lot of devices, but one of the easiest devices is this here. And it measures my pulse and also oxygen levels. So it gives you feedback. I can see from here that my pulse is 69, which is not unreasonable. So that's way of doing it. There are more complex machines that you can use. You can also use the back of your phone in some phones, but that's cumbersome. What we need to do is try and relax and have some feedback. Now, there are machines, for example, where you have a toot, toot, so kind of like gives you an idea about how your pulse is. And it gives you some auditory feedback to tell you how it is. So if you're very relaxed, you'll find that it's toot, 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 kind of slow. Where you may start with toot, 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 kind of like gives you an idea about how it is. More complex ones is to use brainwave monitors and muscle tension monitors as well. So there's a lot of machines that you can use, but that is not all of it is something that you would use at home. But that is something that you can do in a lab, where they can expose you to certain stress and then relaxation methods, and then they can monitor it and they can give you a report of what is the best method for you. Aerobic exercises, just normal sports. It is said that having a walk when you study is the best thing you can do, because it just relaxes you, takes off the pressure and the stress, and also gives you a little bit more oxygen energy. So when you move around, so just walking a little bit for 10-15 minutes when you have a break. So when you have a break, when you're studying, go out and just have a walk. And just generally aerobic exercises, which is also something you can do in front of a TV. There are a lot of YouTube videos for aerobic exercises. And finally, how to manage it. Some people just think about it, and I have a problem, rationally, let's manage it, right? Not get stressed about it. So there's so many ways of coping with it. There is the repressive, you just avoid it and you just forget about it. Put your head in the sand like some bird. What's that name of bird? I forgot it. Na'ama. I'm trying to remember the English name for it. There's the rational, there is reframing, relaxation, biofeedback, aerobic, and situation management. Right. And then in some communities, in some countries, there is what they call social support. Someone you go to and talk to. Now, empathy is very important. Have you watched the film The Joker? That is a very good example of a lot of stress that this person had. He was bullied, he was hurt, he had a lot of issues, and he had some hallucinations in his mind. He was thinking of things. And then he had this useless social support lady, if you've watched it, which was a person who was disinterested. This is very important here. Now, if your social support here or any other support of what we said here, when we talk about when you talk about it to someone, is if this person is interested and you find that they're interested, then you will get more out of them. But if they are disinterested, you get the results of what we see with the Joker. Now, the Joker is a prime example of people who just go out and kill people. That's one. We have that frequently in the US and sometimes here, but also less here. But also we have these people who just give up and then kill themselves. I do recommend watching the film The Joker if you haven't watched it. It's very educating. If you look at it from a psychological point of view, it's very useful. Now, the English are very good in this. When they have stress, they just smile, a fake smile. Way of coping with stress is humor. Some of the best stand-up comedies have a lot of stress and a lot of domestic problems, a lot of problems, but they cope with it with humor. And you find that if you look into the histories of some of these, including Charlie Chaplin, they had some serious problems, but they masked all of that with humor. The Joker, again, is another example of how he dealt with and coping with stress with that. So making fun of yourself